Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Live, Love, and Marry Wiser. I'm your host, Lorraine Edwards of A Single Mission, and it is my passion to help single women embrace their singleness, walk in their purpose, and prepare for the partner they desire. As you all may well know, if you've watched us before, we are on hiatus from our live programs, but we did commit to doing some recorded programs that will be uploaded at Tuesday at 6:15 at our regular time. So you don't have to get out of your rhythm of seeing us. And we hope that you are watching, that you are subscribing, that you are liking, commenting. Please bring your comments, your thoughts. It's not just about what we think, but it's about what you think. We want to hear from you. So please bring your comments to the live for sure. But even now in the recordings, I do check those. I get notifications and then I will respond to you. If you have things that you want us to talk about, we would love to hear that. We are planning for season 3 now. We have some great guests that will be joining. We have some great guests that we've invited and waiting to hear from and see if we can bring that to you. But if there's somebody that you know that you would like to have their perspective on this program, then please reach out to us. We would love to talk with them. And of course, we make sure that their perspective is in alignment. They don't have to agree with everything that we believe, but their perspective has to be in alignment with our program, our hosts, and our audience, of course. But we would love to meet those people that you know that we don't know, that have great insight on living wiser, loving wiser, and marrying wiser. And so please reach out to us. We'd like to welcome you again. And today we're going to talk about the power of friendship. Our program is entitled Laughter and Joy, the Power of Friendship to Stimulate the Happy Hormones. And understanding the power of friendship to stimulate the happy hormones can be like the foundation for a life of laughter and joy for the single person who desires a partner and wants to live a full and joyful life, even if they don't have one. You know, that is my passion, that we will not look at singleness as some sort of mistake or oversight by God, but that He has a plan, but that our whole life is not based on being married, and that we can enjoy our life, we can serve in our life, we can certainly be fulfilling our purpose in our life, whether we marry now, later, or never. So tell me if you recognize this. Thank you for being a friend. Travel down the road and back again. Your heart is true. You're a pal and a confidant. And if you threw a party, invited everyone you knew, you would see the biggest gift would be from me. And the card attached would say, thank you for being a friend. Now, if you are of any 30 or older, you certainly know that theme song from the Golden Girls. And I think that if you did watch the Golden Girls, the reality is it is one of the most iconic comedies in television history. Now, the original episodes aired from September 14th, 1985, which is just a couple weeks, a few days from now, May 9th, 1992. And every day now, though, you can go and see reruns of this show. It was ridiculously funny. But like the reality is, who would have thought that a show about 4 middle-aged women living together in one home would become a hit of epic proportions? Like, seriously, why was it such a hit? I mean, at its core, The Golden Girls was a show about friendship and love that developed between four strangers with vastly different personalities that made a connection. What made it, and I think still makes it resonate with an audience that spans demographics like old, young, white, black, men, women. And one reason I think was its willingness to talk about topics that were typically ignored about women, sexuality and race and, hormones and getting older and all of these things. But I think the main reason was that it showed that happiness and fun and a full life can be enjoyed by those who are single. Now, of course, if you've ever seen it, they didn't have some of the moral boundaries that as Christians we should be adhering to. But nevertheless, their lives were about much more than just the men that came through. And they loved their lives and each other. Friendship, real friendship, can consistently activate the happy hormones, just like being married, even a good marriage, or having children, or professional success. Hormones are chemicals produced by different glands across your body. They travel through the bloodstream, acting as messengers and playing a part in many bodily processes. One of these important functions is helping to regulate your mood. Now, certain hormones are known to promote positive feelings, like including happiness and pleasure. And the main four of these happy hormones, as they are called, are dopamine. I know you've heard of that. Serotonin, oxytocin, and endorphins. Now, especially dopamine, many people have heard about that because there's so many things that trigger dopamine rush. So many good things like love and relationships and laughter and all of that, but also some bad things like overeating or eating bad things. Like nobody gets a dopamine rush from eating broccoli. So it's like candy or chocolate or chips or pizza or all of these types of things that really are not good for our body, but they give us that rush. But the reality is these hormones were part of our makeup before there was even sin. And so God intended for us to be experiencing the pleasure that comes from the trigger of these things. They didn't live on this, at least I don't believe, I wasn't there, obviously, that Adam and Eve lived on this perpetual high. I think that they had a joyful life that was peaceful without sin. But there was still sex, and there was still a food. They had access to all the trees except for one. And so there's a new fruit that's like, oh wow, that tastes fantastic. Or I don't think that it was just some homogenous monotone lifestyle of like, oh, this fruit is just as good as that fruit, and this is no. I think there was variety. I think there was enjoyment in different aspects. There were different things that bring them that increased their happy hormones, and there were things that were not as impactful. Because I just think it would be kind of monotonous and boring if you were just like at the same level, enjoyed everything as much as everything else, and no matter what happened, everything was at that same level. Because what is even like sex is a whole nother thing that I promise we're going to talk about. We're actually going to start talking about it with our first guest, but that's not going to be the focus of it. But we are going to talk about that. And so God created that for a specific purpose, not just procreation, but recreation, I believe. And also, and then like what happens to our bodies when you have sex, when you have healthy, loving, intimate sex within marriage. because I think something different happens when you're having sex outside of marriage. I'm getting into a whole thing here that I didn't intend to, but this is kind of what I'm feeling right now. I need to say. And I think even the best sex outside of marriage can never equate to the worst sex in marriage. When I say worse, I don't mean like abusive or anything like that. It's just like maybe you're still trying to figure each other out and learn what works or whatever. But that intimacy, that is that openness, that nakedness, and not being ashamed in the sense of not just physical nakedness, but emotional nakedness and spiritual and being open to each other. I don't think anything can match that. So God intended for that kind of pleasure. He created us for that type of pleasure. And so now after sin, there are things that trigger those happy hormones that are detrimental to us, but there are a lot of things that can trigger it that are beneficial to us. And so listen to this information from a neuroscientist on this topic of friendship in relation to the release of happy hormones. I'm just going to read that to you. Having a supportive social network, i.e., a lot of friends, or a lot to you, because a lot is different from different people, can help you live longer with less anxiety and fewer health problems. When humans get lonely, a genetic cascade of changes happen in your body. Loneliness increases inflammation and turbocharges your fight or flight stress response. And this stresses you out. Your immune system starts getting weaker. You subconsciously respond to this chemical change by isolating yourself from other people, which can lead to depression, which can mean you get stuck in a biological feedback loop. Now, the opposite of loneliness, connection, involves emotion, thought, empathy, intuition, our senses, and reason. When you really connect with someone, either romantically or platonically, you develop healthy brain cells and strengthen positive neural pathways in your brain. Can you believe that? Healthy friendships improve your emotional intelligence. It is a powerful cocktail of oxytocin, dopamine, and serotonin, all your feel-good hormones, and it elevates your mood and optimizes your hormonal response to stress. Now, you all know this. Certain people in your social circles just get you. You share an understanding of life and one another. When you experience this emotional connection, oxytocin, the trust and love hormone, is released into your bloodstream. Oxytocin triggers a fountain of serotonin and dopamine. Those feel-good hormones again. You feel more generous and cooperative as your brain's reward circuitry, the circuits of your brain, okay, reinforces the awesomeness of this friendship. Just thinking of this friend will be chemical magic. One good friend can transform your attitudes, beliefs, and behaviors throughout all parts of your life. Here's the end. When you laugh with someone, neurochemicals called endorphins are released. These chemicals clear your cell memory and open up a natural flow of information chemicals. Suddenly you feel super happy. You have more bandwidth to learn, grow, and face reality when you get regular hits of these neurochemicals. And I'll put the link to that article in the description. But, friendship can be better than marriage in triggering happy hormones because there aren't the same highs and lows that can happen in marriage and often do happen in marriage, even in good marriages. But certainly in those that may be struggling, it's like you have those good times and the hormones maybe kick in and whatever, but then you have those other times. And then also there's this thing a lot of times that when in friendship, there's never really in good friendships. Obviously, we're talking about healthy friendships, which you still can disagree, but you don't have toxic relationships. That that those hormones that rise when you're together, they last longer even when you're not together. Memories of those people and that time stimulates, but it never comes back down to, if you're like on a graph, it doesn't come back down to zero. It's always there. It comes down and it levels, but it doesn't drop to zero where you just like have to start all over again. It's like even memories or thoughts or conversations or whatever, they keep you in a kind of consistent level of happiness and joy and those release of those hormones. Whereas marriage, I'm not saying it can't be in marriage. I'm just saying, and I'll try to link to the article or it was a video research project presentation that Dr. Neil Nedley shared about the fact that friendships can actually keep you more level in your happy hormones than marriage does. Um, Friendships are not just a fun way to pass the time until you find a spouse. You know, they say loneliness has been shown to be more detrimental to our health than smoking 15 cigarettes a day. However, since 1985, Americans who report not having a close friend has tripled. You know, with all the apps that we're friending in this and we're friending that, and people have less friendships, real friendships. Friendships can eliminate persistent loneliness, increase happiness, and improve mental and physical health. That's awesome. Y'all, like, this is the thing that really excites me, is that seeing people who are single and they are having a joyful, happy, it doesn't mean everything is perfect in their life. Forget the marriage part. Like, there are other things in life that can be going wrong, but that you're just like, this is where I am, and I'm going to live it to the fullest and enjoy it to the max. I'm going to do the thing that God has me to do. I'm going to like develop the relationships that God has me to develop that have nothing to do with marriage or dating. And I always feel the need to say, like, I'm not against marriage. I love good marriage. I would like to be married and have a good marriage, but I don't want to be married at the expense of my happiness, my joy, my peace, all of that pleasure. Like, it's not a trade. It doesn't have to be a trade-off, but for many people it is. It's like when they really look back, they were happier single than they are now. So my thing is, if you are happy now, then you will be happy later. This research has shown it. We've talked about it before. In fact, I just heard a counselor mention that same article that we talked about in season 1, that that whatever state you are before you get married is the state you will be after you get married. It may take a few months because that high of the wedding and all of that, but now you're just like, you go back. If you were happy before, you'd be happy. If you were unhappy before, you'd be unhappy. So my goal is for us to live, love, and marry wiser and happier. But it's not just having friendships. I think there are 3 kinds of relationships that we need to maximize. It's not like, oh, I got friends on Facebook or I got people that I hang out with sometimes and whatever. That's like, let's be a little bit more structured about it. So what are the 3 critical relationships to trigger some of these happy hormones? I would say having a mentor. So you're being mentored by someone, having peers, people who are in your same level of life and age generally. Some of them are married, some of them are single, some have children, some don't. But you all hang out together, you have a lot in common, you laugh, you share, your spiritual levels support each other, you study together. And then the third one is mentees, like people that you mentor. Now, why is this? Now, different activities trigger different hormones to increase, and different friendships or relationships tap into those activities. I don't know if we having some sort of storm out here. If y'all can hear that, sorry about that. Whatever. When we have a well-rounded friendship roster, we get the most out of the happy hormones available. So mentors stimulate the hormone dopamine. No matter how old we get, there's always someone older, certainly, but who has experienced more, or at least different things that they've experienced, and can give you wisdom and insight that you are less likely to receive from a peer. When we learn new things, we release dopamine, which gives us that sense of euphoria or happiness that often spurs us to learn more new things and apply that knowledge, keeping us in a more sustained happiness loop. In fact, I was just reading today. I've wanted to learn Portuguese for a long time. I started learning it in 2020 diligently. I still have the course that I need to go back to because I own it. It's online, and I was loving it. But in my part-time job, I work around most of the people that I work with speak Spanish. I mean, many of them speak English too, but they speak Spanish. And so typically when it's not like instructions being given, even the director is from the Dominican Republic. So that's his first language. He speaks great English, but that's your first language. So when you're just talking or chilling to people who also speak Spanish, that's what you're going to speak. So I love hearing it. Obviously, I don't. Well, that's not obvious, but I'm about to tell you will make it obvious. I do not speak Spanish. I've taken Spanish. I've passed Spanish. Did all the things in college, but then you don't use it, so you lose it. And I love hearing it. It's a different language than Portuguese. I am aware of that. Please don't message me. I get it. I'd like to learn them both. But there are some similarities. And because I had studied Spanish before, there are words that are certainly familiar. So I'm like, I'd like to, sometimes I sort of understand what they're saying from context and the words that I do get, that I do understand. I'm like, oh, I'd really like to learn Spanish so that I can communicate with them even more because they're great people. So today I was on Instagram and I saw an ad, and like literally I feel like these things have, like you say it out loud, or sometimes it feels like you even think it and suddenly there's an ad for it, but that's not what this program's about. But I saw this ad about this guy. He was talking about how to learn Spanish quicker, better, how he did it. He was an interpreter for the US government, so he does know it very well. But so I clicked on the link and I'm like, oh, this is so interesting. And so like I got excited about the thought of like learning it and then like being able to share and impress them with that I know how to speak it. So when we learn new things, we get that dopamine. Older friends or mentors can pour into us and give us the value of their experience. It's not only practical benefit for us, but also an emotional benefit. We can enjoy the general advantages of a positive interpersonal relationship and then add to that the gift of growing and learning from the investment of time and teaching from someone that you admire and trust. Obviously, you're not going to get a mentor who you don't admire and trust. So spiritually, this is exponential in its benefits. We can learn disciplines that help us grow in our relationships with God, while also these people can correct us when we are going astray. If there's no person in your life that is even just a couple of steps ahead of you that can pour into you spiritually, emotionally, practically, and help you learn new things and have new experiences, then you are missing out on a big dose of the happy hormone, dopamine. And I know I had 3 women that were older than me and that were my spiritual mentors, but also in practical things too. And I mean, like, I don't even know what the odds of this are, but like 2 of them died in 2020 when I was living in New Zealand. So I couldn't even be there at the funeral. But then the next one passed the year after. And I was just like, are you even kidding me right now? But just what they poured into my life in the time that I knew them was super powerful. And so even thinking about them, obviously it makes me sad that they're gone, but I believe that they all died in Christ. So there's joy there. But it's like I can still look back on the times that I spent with them and think about what they taught me and how much I enjoyed it and all that. So then that's still, there's that stimulation of those, that the happy hormone. The second kind of friend, they stimulate the hormone oxytocin. Now, when I say they stimulate, it's not just that one, but that's the main one in these different types of relationships. So the second kind of friend that you need is someone or a few people who are in that same stage of life. As I said, about your age group, similar life experiences now, maybe similar places in your career, people who you could confide in, laugh with, pray with, discuss life with, and who are holding you to a standard. They don't need to all be single if you're single, but some should be, because they have, we have unique challenges that only like really other single Christians can understand. Not our good friends can understand, but like kind of have that empathy and that experience. And when we embrace those around us that share that experience and commit to making those healthy, loving, happy relationships, we all benefit from that. And so now, obviously, friends, I have friends that are married and single and children, parents, not parents, all of that. But your peer group should be people you can relate to in your experience. And now when we laugh with our friends, we get shots of endorphins and oxytocin that promote positive feelings and pro-social behavior. The Bible says in Proverbs 17:22, a merry heart doeth good like a medicine, but a broken spirit drieth the bone. Now, like, there's so many principles in the Bible that if we just read it and studied it for like, oh, this is how my life could be better, our life would be better. It's a lot of times we have to learn things outside of the Bible. And then we can go back to the Bible and be like, oh yeah, that actually is true. God said that, 6,000 years ago, 4,000 years ago. So when you don't laugh, especially with other people, you slowly suck the life out of your life. Laughter with friends is a resuscitator. That's crazy, y'all. Even reflecting on a past good memory with a friend can increase your happy hormone release. And you all know that this is true because you felt depressed or sad or lonely or whatever, and then you get on the phone or Zoom or you talk, even texting with your friend, and y'all will laugh about some crazy stuff. And I know that in my text group with, you all know Ebony and Renee, and we have another friend, Tracy, that we're in a text group. And I mean, for years we've been doing this. And I say, we've all said at some point, if anyone like actually read our text thread, they would think like we were insane. But it's like so much stuff that like you have so many experiences with somebody that you can reference that and you know what you're talking about and it's funny. But if someone just read it, they would just be like, what? So yeah, so that's part of the beauty of that friendship, because you still can laugh about those things years down, or 10, 20 years later, those things are still funny. In fact, I was just having a conversation with Renee and Tracy like a couple weeks ago because we had taken a few road trips here to Florida when I was living in Virginia, and just all kind of crazy stuff would happen. And we just were talking about it just a couple of weeks ago and still laughing like it just happened yesterday. So just, not only do you get that initial hit of oxytocin, but then you get subsequent, like private hits, and you don't have to pay anyone for that. Come on, y'all. Come on now. That's the drug that God has intended for us to use and bring a high and a joy that we don't have to pay for. So there is a common misconception that only sex or breastfeeding produces oxytocin. So it's restricted to those types of relationships. But that is not true. Other physical affection appropriate to a friendship, like hugging or holding hands, gives you a huge dose of oxytocin as well. So this is the power of friendship. And these hormones, particularly oxytocin, bonds you to those people. And so even anticipating that you're going to see them or talk to them makes your mind happy. So finally, mentoring releases endorphins. We need to pour into other people just like we have someone pouring into us. It is as important a happiness producing for us to do acts of kindness for others as to receive from others. And here we go. I don't even have the scripture, but the Bible says it is more blessed to give than to receive. And we think blessed in this, kind of super spiritual kind of way. But even as I'm sitting here, I literally just thought that. That's why it's not on the screen. But it's like, even just sometimes we over spiritualize the Bible when the Bible has so much practical knowledge for how our life can be better. That's crazy, y'all. It is more blessed to give. There's more joy that comes from that. There's that endorphin rush that comes from giving more than just receiving. That's crazy. Endorphin rush that we get from an act of kindness, it doesn't always last long, but when we make a point of continuing that through mentorship of another person, spending time with them, teaching them, encouraging them, sharing great times, that happy hormone is released, and it's released regularly and it's increased regularly. And so, yeah, if you do one act of kindness, then, you get that feel good for a little bit. But when you live a life of kindness, now you're getting that all of the time. In addition to the other things that relationships bring, dopamine and serotonin and oxytocin. And so it's just, and wisdom and knowledge and experiences and all of that. So it also, brings with it, like I'm saying right now, it brings with it the dopamine of doing new things, the oxytocin of laughing, bonding, and physical affection, and the serotonin of remembering the good times that you share. When we give back to others in a balanced way, we can reap the benefits of both giving and receiving. Because the Bible didn't say it's not blessed to receive. It just says it's more blessed to give than to receive. Crazy. Investing in others who are younger or coming up after us is a biblical principle. Moses and Joshua, Eli and Samuel, Deborah and Barak, Naomi and Ruth, Elijah and Elisha, and the list goes on. Paul and John Mark. So when God honoring people invest in others, we create communities that are stronger for God and his cause. Now, who is our ultimate example? If you said Jesus, yeah, you got it. No surprise, of course, since, if you're a Christian, the best answer is always Jesus, because you're going to be right like at least 87% of the time. So always, if you don't know the answer, just say Jesus. No surprise, of course, he is the ultimate example. of everything good. Jesus spent hours and sometimes the whole night getting wisdom, strength, and direction from his Father. In a sense, in a mentorate, a pouring in relationship. He sought companionship and support from his disciples and his friends. Remember Mary, Martha, and Lazarus? Lazarus. Jesus poured himself out in service to the people. To be happy in any season of life, intentionally seek out relationships where you get to share, you get to receive, and you get to give. Now, I'm going to read this quote from this book called Radiant Religion, and I'm actually going to share it with you all too. And science agrees with this, that the importance of good, healthy friendships cannot be overstated. Christian sociability is altogether too little cultivated by God's people. Those who shut themselves up within themselves, who are unwilling to be drawn upon to bless others by friendly associations, lose many blessings. Lose many blessings. For by mutual contact, minds receive polish and refinement. By social intercourse, acquaintances are formed and friendships contracted. Watch this, which result in a unity of heart and an atmosphere of love, which is pleasing in the sight of heaven. Radiant Religion, page 161. I'll put the link in the description. So I went out to find a friend. I could find no one there. I went out to be a friend, and friends were everywhere. Go out today and be a friend. Be a friend to a friend that you already have. Be a mentor to a child of one of your friends. Get mentorship by some senior in your church or community that is also probably lonely. Like, there are relationships to be had all over that God has given us to benefit us spiritually, emotionally, mentally, financially. Even we can learn things from someone who might be doing something you're interested in. Maybe you want to be flipping houses, and then you know someone who is, and they can mentor you. So not only is that moving you in the direction you want to go financially and maybe professionally or from a business perspective, but also you're building relationships. Don't go look for a friend. Go be a friend. And there will be friends everywhere. Until next time, my friends, make choices that will help you live, love, and marry wiser. God bless you.